Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here coming at you from the Knife Center, and it's our favorite time of the week because we're taking a look at the coolest new knives that have just hit our shelves. Let's check them out. All right, the first thing we're going to look at today is not a knife.
Aww.
It's okay though. It's technically an exclusive though too, actually. This has been shown on a YouTube short we posted a little bit ago, but I never actually showed this morale patch here on the actual channel. This is the first official piece of slightly larger than average swag that you folks have been asking for, and you know, maybe I'm a little self-conscious or something. I didn't want to like push that unintentional catchphrase on you folks, but our designer here went around my back, created something cool, and had Prometheus Design Works do a batch of vinyl patches for us. That's your slightly larger than average patch. 11 bucks. You can get them right now. Comes with the Velcro backing, as you can see right there. Hook and loop. I don't know if it's name brand Velcro. I don't know.
I bought one.
Thomas bought one. What are you gonna do with it?
I'm gonna put it under my rifle bag.
Oh, well, that's actually a place of honor. Thank you, sir. Unless you're doing it for some sort of like smart alecky reason.
I'm filling space.
Just like we're doing right now. Let's move on to some knives, shall we? Here you go. There's your first patch. Actually, the second thing on the list is not a knife either, even though I'm holding up a knife. Custom scales from Flytanium for the CRKT Minimalist. Check that out. If you're familiar with the Minimalist, you can see just how dramatic a difference this scale option provides. It's pretty cool. They didn't just, well here, let me pull up the standard version. This is a KnifeCenter exclusive orange G10 with a D2 blade. So even though with the Flytanium we've got some G10 different colors and micarta options, how do I hold this best to show these off? I felt like it was the best to show the orange side by side with the orange. Very, very different. Completely transforms the knife. The original, which right now, these guys are actually only about 30 bucks, I think, which is nice. You have those aggressive finger guards and the fob at the back to give you a little bit more pinky retention there. It is a fairly secure knife to hold in the hand. It's, you know, those big finger guards do keep it from moving around a lot, but it's maybe a little less manipulatable, a little less nimble than a more traditionally shaped handle, and that's where this comes in. Big, broad patch of micarta or G10, some nice sculpting in some key areas there. Completely different feel in the hand. Still feels fairly secure because you do have one big finger guard there. It kind of, or finger groove, it maintains that, but then covers up the rest. And because it's so kind of wide and flat, there's a lot of control on that. Works great in a pinch grip, which is something that, yeah, you can pinch grip a standard Minimalist, and I never would have thought it was, you know, bad, but pinch gripping this compared to these alternate scales, this is just so much nicer, so much more confidence filling, in my mind at least. Very, very cool. About 19 bucks for these knives, or these handles too, at least for the G10. The micarta's about 22. Really cool. Here's where it gets even more interesting. We're actually partnering with Flytanium right now to give away one of each color of these handle scales. And not just the handle scales, we're gonna give you the scales and one of these D2 cleaver exclusives for us right now. You're gonna have to install them yourself when you get them there, and if you want a chance to win one of those sets, there's gonna be a link in the description for this video. Follow that over, all the full rules and everything for entry will be on that page. But check them out anyway. Like I said, very affordable and very transformative on the knife. Feels great in that pinch grip. Still works with the stock sheath. They didn't kind of change the geometries right there at the front, which is nice. You can grab that knife fully on the handle as you extract it. You don't have to adjust your grip. And you could never really kind of gorilla grip a Minimalist before. Whereas you just, you know, palm that and fist and push through the cut. You know, like, you can kind of do that with these scales here. Very, very neat. All right, how about we look at some knives?
We might.
Good suggestion there, Thomas. This is the Dervish Knives Mid-Tech Acana, and this is a KnifeCenter exclusive finish. The scorched bronze milled titanium handles. Cool thing about this knife is it kind of bridges the gap between some of the like real heavy overbuilt premium pocket knives and slimmer, easier to carry executive knives. Obviously it's not quite a narrow spear point profile. You've got this aggressive recurve on this 4-inch blade, but it's a fairly narrow 4-inch blade, but it's still built like some of those really tough titanium frame locks out there. And as such, you have something that feels exceedingly stable and yet is not going to be something that is difficult to carry whatsoever. Caged ceramic bearings in here. They have a real nice feel to that thumb flicking action. 20 CV blade, 4 inches, like I mentioned. Hollow ground. Feels hollow ground. Or is it? Actually, that's flat ground. Interesting. So you've got that saber grind going on there with flat geometry and even more edge in that 4-inch length with that dramatic recurve going on here. So you've got a lot of cutting potential in this very compact knife. Feels pretty good in the hand. It's not even that bad if you're gorilla gripping this knife, really. Kind of surprising to me, actually. And then pocket clip, big, beefy, milled clip, not deep carry. Actually, a fair amount sticks out above the pocket there. It's gonna be very easy to grab and less actually sits inside your pocket. Yeah, very cool, very cool, I like it. What else should I say about this knife? Thomas, thoughts?
It's like you want an executive knife, but you're going into battle.
It's an executive tactical knife. Actually, what blade shape is that now if I hold it upside down?
Reverse drop line.
It's like a reverse, I don't know, it's something. Never you mind, folks. We have another interesting blade shape to talk about. And actually a fun story too. This is a outdoor version of the LT Wright Pouter. Now the Pouter, the standard size version, they've sold this as a kitchen knife. And a few months ago, during one of their private sales that they had at their shop, I saw a set of Pouters they had made where they had kind of clipped the tip off like so. Reminded me a little bit of kind of like a Seaxy thing going on. And I saw it and I was like, you know what, LT? I want you to build out several of these knives for us with that blade shape and thicker handles and a sheath, because I think this makes a really cool kind of trade knife inspired outdoors knife. And I think they turned out great as well. Prices on them, we've got 4 different versions in stock right now, start around 200. This one right here with the Python micarta and orange handle or orange liners, a little bit more, comes in about $235. And this is the first time I've held one of these knives with a full thickness grip like this, and it is very cool. Still gonna be very good at the kitchen-y things if you wanna do food prep with it, but something about this feels a little more versatile or maybe a little more outdoorsy. You've got kind of some hunting capability built in, gonna be fine, make fine feather sticks and that sort of thing. Of course, it's an LT Wright, so it's finished by hand. There's no hot spots on the handle whatsoever. We've got a crisp spine, so you can create a hot spot on a ferro rod. You can scrape and get your sparks with that. And of course, they're razor sharp right out of the box too. And we get to debut this pattern as a dealer release right here. So that is also very, very cool. Feels great. Check them out right now.
Even LT's making reverse tantos.
Oh, Thomas, you didn't.
Yeah, I did.
Breaking my heart, man.
That's what I'm here for.
That is what you're here for. Literally, it's in his job description. He gets paid for this.
Well, it's supposed to be.
It's supposed to be. Next up, another thing that we, as a dealer, got to be the first dealer to unveil previously was the banana peel from LT's Woodsmonkey brand. It is a friction folder, and now we have some more to show you. A new batch, new blade shape. And if you're unfamiliar with it, obviously it looks like some, fairly standard friction folder from the outside. But the cool thing about the way they build these is they're modular. Meaning, if you have a different banana peel that you might have different scales or a different blade shape for, you can swap things around. They encourage you to actually take these apart. You can see we've got simple flathead screw on one side and the threaded portion on the other. You can take them apart, throw different scales on there, Or if you have one set of handles you really like, you can have multiple blades to bring with you, whether they're different shaped for different uses, or kind of like, think of the replaceable blade hunting knives out there that once one is dull, you pop in a new one. I wouldn't suggest throwing these away once they're dull, because they can be resharpened. These are, I believe our entire batch, yes, is in AEBL stainless steel right now, which is cool. But this is the new sheep's foot blade profile. AEBL, like I mentioned, full flat grind, coming in about 2 3/8 of an inch long for this version. And we've got a few different handle scale options right now. There's some slimmer, kind of EDC sized one with some 1/8 inch thick G10. We've got some more heavy duty feeling ones with thicker scales. We've got a rustic brown micarta, and this is my favorite out of the batch. It's black paper micarta with the twisted finish, meaning they've come in and put these twists in essentially. What's cool about that, to me this looks a little bit like kudu or antelope horn, but it's a very stable material. It's not that natural material that can crack like that. And it feels really good too. I love that look. It's very cool. Friction folder, as I mentioned, and banana peel is the name because in the closed position, it's designed to kind of look like a banana. I wouldn't go eating your banana if it was this color, but it's not an actual banana, it's a knife. So,
Had me fooled.
Prices on these knives, fairly affordable for an LT Wright made knife, actually. Not the least expensive. Bushcrafter HCs can still be had for less, but these start around just over $135 for our least expensive variation right now. Yeah, check those out. Build a nice collection of these over time. You can have all those different blades and handles, have fun swapping them around. Very, very cool. So next up, and speaking of bananas, this doesn't make sense yet, but it will in a moment. We have a new gold class Benchmade 945 mini Osborne dropping today. Very cool knife. And the reason I say bananas is this was a really funny comment someone left on our comment section on YouTube here, and I thought it was worth sharing. Compared the shape of the full-size 940 to a robot banana.
I'm gonna need a banana for scale. Thank you.
That robot banana comment made me laugh really hard. But anyway, probably harder than it should. This is the new gold class mini Osborne. And in typical Benchmade gold class fashion, the price is up there. This is about $700. And it is festooned with all kinds of cosmetic upgrades, essentially. But you've still got performance here. Damascus steel blade, which means it's a particle steel Damascus pattern based on RWL 34, which is CPM 154, an analog to that. So you've still got good performance there. And you have, Thomas, a spay blade. You are very correct. That's exactly right. That traditional shape for the Osborne series. Onto the back, we have aluminum handles in this blue color. I believe this is a fat carbon. Yes, Arctic Storm fat carbon handles. Gold anodized backspacer there, semi-floating, which is really cool to see. And of course, all the rest of the goodness that this platform provides. Reversible pocket clip, ambidextrous crossbar lock in their axis lock system. Feels very, very nice overall. Very fancy looking overall too. The cool thing about the other thing about this is a symmetrical knife, meaning it's completely the same operability wise, left it or right handed. And this is number 1001. So the serial number on this is symmetrical too. Yeah.
If a palindrome was a knife.
If a palindrome was a knife. Sure, why not? All right, next up, we've got a new Jack Wolf knife dropping tomorrow, Friday. So if you're watching this the day the video comes out on Thursday, you have to hold your horses just a little bit. This is the K9 Jack, which Barlows can have a bunch of different blade shapes, but I like a Barlow with a big fat spear point like this. And this is kind of like a dogleg knife hand, or a dogleg handled Barlow, in my mind at least. Very, very cool. We've talked about Jack Wolf a lot. This follows kind of the same pattern as all of their patterns. Same playbook, I should say, as all of their patterns. Built exceptionally well. I mean, the fit and finish is great. The walk, excellent. The talk, nice and snappy too. titanium integral bolsters here, M390 steel, we're just under 3 inches, full height hollow grind there, nice thin edges overall. This is the fat carbon inlay. This is the fat carbon dark matter red. There's also a twill carbon fiber. Those come in about 300. You can get a couple micarta options for about 275 on these. They're fantastic. The cool thing about kind of all the stuff that Jack Wolf is doing is they really are just upgrading traditional patterns and building them in a modern style with the Torx construction here, the M390, the titanium, rather than doing, I shouldn't say rather than, not doing original patterns as a modern slip joint. If you really want that classic vibe with the modern stuff, this is as good as it gets. And that's to say very good indeed. Even the packaging. I always gotta show the packaging because got the aluminum tube here. I think it's aluminum anyway, with the custom artwork. Inside you've got the rag, the pocket slip, a couple little goodies on top of that. I mean, come on. How cool are they? But as mentioned, dropping tomorrow. Just like these next two knives, we've also got a big batch of new WE and CIVIVIs dropping tomorrow. These are 2 of them. I'll show some of the others next week, I think. The first of which has become kind of exceedingly popular in hype leading up to this release, is the Vision R. It is a design collaboration with Seax, and it has what they're calling, in this case, the Super Lock, which is the mechanism that Sandrin is essentially using on their recoil lock knives, and it operates similarly to, even if it's not an identical functionally to stuff like the Shark Lock out there on the Andrew Demko knives. But this is one that, I'll admit, puzzled me a little bit until I heard this story. The reason for this design was essentially a very specific design brief. This is a food prep knife, believe it or not. Yes, it's gonna make a great EDC, great utility pattern, but for food prep where you might be dealing with like juices and that sort of thing, on a folder, you're always dealing with places where juice can hide when you go to clean and bacteria can grow. As such, trying to make this as cleanable as possible. You got a lot of pass-throughs where you can get water through. Even the lock bar itself can be lifted out of its locking position so you can get in there, get into the spring and everything, and rinse it out. I thought this was just like, what the heck's going on? But there's actually a reason for that, and that is that. Price on these, about $269, several different color variations. We're dealing with a 20 CV blade that's about 3.5 inches long. You've got this modified sheep's foot shape, and the angle from the blade to handle gives you that kind of clearance you might need when working on a cutting board, so that's pretty cool. And the name Vision is because essentially this tiny little cutout right here, this tiny little hole right around the tang of the blade, you can actually see the lock interfacing with the handle itself, which is kind of neat. See how the knife works. And you can do the ambidextrous stuff, the finger safe operation, the centrifugal or centripetal stuff, standard opening. I haven't tried to reverse flick it yet. Shall we try? Works like that too. As far as geometry, you got something interesting going on here. It's essentially a 2-stage flat grind. You can see 2 tops of the grind lines right there. So you've got a couple facets going on, but nice thin edge in typical WE fashion. We've got a spine mounted pocket clip in this case. Makes this another completely symmetrical knife. Great for lefties or righties, and just pretty darn cool too. Next up, one of the CIVIVIs dropping tomorrow. Kind of a similar blade shape actually, but very different knife in practice. The Kiwi Plus from Ostap Hell. It is a front flipper, comes in about $65 right now. And this is one that I have trouble with.
Apparently not.
Apparently not. It must be it. I do it. Yeah, see, I'm not as good with this one on the thumb, but I got a little better at the index finger. But anyway, we'll just pretend that didn't happen. That's quite all right. Nitro V blade steel, 2.5 or just over 2.5 inches actually. And you've got a Kiridashi inspired blade shape. I say inspired because true Kiridashis are chisel ground and this knife is not. It is a flat ground knife with a nice thin edge. So it may not be the typical carpenter's tool that a Kiradashi is typically, but great everyday utility box cutter style of knife, essentially. Rip through some boxes really nicely with that. Opening up packages. You've got an inset liner lock. We have a deep carry pocket clip right side in this case. This is a pretty cool color, this ivory G10. It's a little like eggshell or off-white. And they come in $65, a couple more dollars. You can get one, a G10 handle with a carbon fiber overlay on top as well. Very nice. And we'll make sure to leave a link to the entire drop once it happens. Again, it's happening Friday, so Thomas will have to go ahead and add a link on Friday for the new stuff. But
what else is new?
You're welcome. Next up, we've got a Schrade, another one of their new American-made Alpha class models. This is the Radok. Comes in about $210. Very aggressive shape here. 3 3/4 inch long on the blade, S35 VN steel. Aggressive. We're going to call that a modified Wharncliffe in this case, I think. You've got plenty of a nice long sweeping drop to the spine, pretty acute tip. Saber ground flat grind in this case. That's going to give you a pretty aggressive cutting profile, pretty powerful feeling cutter along with that piercing tip right there. The edge is not completely straight, so you got just a hint of belly, hence the modified Wharncliffe in this case. Back to the handle, we've got marbled carbon fiber. We've got a crossbar lock, which is an ambidextrous system. So is the dual thumb studs there. So are the dual thumb studs. Pocket clip is not ambidextrous, however. You've got this milled, actually it feels like steel or doesn't feel like titanium, but a milled metal pocket clip in any case, non-reversible as you can see. So still a right side bias knife, even if the lock and thumb studs would also work equally well as a lefty. Marbled carbon fiber for the handles, plenty to hold on to. It's kind of a gentleman's hard work knife. It's one of those interesting blends between genres there. As far as their action on their crossbar lock, it's pretty good. Maybe not the best in the industry, but not half bad either. Actually, no real complaints that I can think of. Let's see, do they have a name for this lock? Yes, they're calling it the pivot lock. I don't like that name. Don't like that name at all.
Pivots move, they don't lock.
And you're locking the blade, not the anyway. But a rose by any other name, that sort of thing.
Still works.
Still works. Next up, we've got some Protex, the latest ATCF, their Bob Terzuola collaboration, which you could get previously in this tuxedo look with the, is this ivory G10? No, it's ivory micarta, so that's ivory paper. Very nice. You could get that with a stonewashed Magna Cut blade previously. Now you can get it in this black coated DLC blade. 3.5 inches long, versatile drop point shape here. Nice blend between the aggressive Terzuola tactical nature and something you can use every day. Handle feels good, just enough length for my slightly larger than average hands. There you go. I don't know why I did that. I felt like I had to. But enough of being silly, because this is not a silly knife whatsoever. This is a very serious knife. Very seriously well-made knife. The action is typical Protec, which is to say it works great and it sounds phenomenal. I like the ivory paper inlay on the firing button itself. And then you've got a Terzuola style milled clip here on the reverse side. $500 for these. And this is one where once this is out, this particular configuration, we're not going to have again, at least as far as I know. They keep doing rolling out new batches of this knife as the year goes on, rather than keeping one kind of stable in the lineup, doing some special stuff with it as time goes on, which is very cool. Next up, one more Protec. This is a $600 knife. It is a customized Godson. Very, very cool. We've got a Chad Nichols Damascus blade here, just over 3 inches. Check out the Burl on those inlays. It is maple and it looks so cool. Black aluminum really sets off that wood tone. Mosaic firing button, always love that. And typical clip on the back, but it has gotten a little bit of a treatment, an interesting looking finish right there. Not sure, do we have a name for that finish on the clip? If there is, it's not on our website. So you guys get to name it in the comments section, I think. I'm gonna call it cool. And I'm gonna call the action just as good as you would expect. How about that for a gentleman's switchblade right there? All right, next up we have a very small knife, another kind of nice everyday box cutter. This is the GiantMouse Nibbler. Several versions of this. You've got aluminum with some real bright colors. This is the green in this case, if you couldn't tell already, $95. You got a 2-inch N690 blade going on here. Modified sheep's foot shape, pretty aggressive tip going on. Just a great small little utility knife. Folds up quite nicely. You've got a wire pocket clip, which is reversible for either side. You've got a liner lock inset, as you can see. And the trick with small knives is getting them to open easily. And this one does open very easily. It's something that just works. It even can reverse flick, as you can see. Oh, come on.
Shame.
It's the stuff I have problems with before the video shoots that I do fine on camera, and the stuff I had no problem at all off camera that's now giving me problems. Let's try this again, shall we? There we go. It can even do the reverse flick, can't you see? You know, little flub there notwithstanding, this is a very easy knife to manipulate. It even feels pretty secure in the hand. It's got a 3-finger grip for me right there. Ring finger pulls up onto the upward curve on the handle right there. Makes it real easy to manipulate the knife as well, because you can kind of push and pull with that one finger, as you can see, to move that blade around. It's a little design trick that I'm a big fan of and have used many times myself as well. Really nice. 95 bucks as mentioned for this. For 150 some bucks, you can get a 20 CV bladed version with micarta handles. So you've got more grip because you've got a matte finish on this micarta and more edge retention too. And then for one more step up, we've got 3 tiers of this knife essentially. Titanium can be had for about $185 on this knife as well. All right, we'll keep the small knife train going before getting back to some larger stuff. No, not yet. The time is not right. Small stuff first. 2 SHOT Show 2022 edition case knives. This is a jigged red bone swell center jack. You've got 2 blades in their stainless steel. You've got the small pen blade and the larger clip point. $60 for this knife, and that comes with that 3-inch closed size in particular. As for the shield, you can see you've got the American flag with the case logo there. The jigged red bone looks great, and of course that jigging is going to give you a little bit of extra traction, which is always good, especially on a smaller knife. You want to, again, talked about that on the GiantMouse just now. You want to be able to really control those smaller blades. So jig bone's always a nice choice on smaller knives like that. Very cool. It's a little bit, it's almost peanut size. It's a little bit larger. And is this one of the patterns that was only going to be available this year, the Swell Center Jack?
I don't remember.
I don't remember either. Maybe we'll point to our case video from SHOT Show.
We might as well.
Check it out. I seem to think that was the case. A lot of good information in this video, folks. Next up, another SHOT Show 2022 edition right here. Curly Maple Canoe, black curly maple. There you go. Coming in at about $85. Again, with their mirror polished or high polished stainless steel. Sorry, Thomas, for your B-roll right there. In the symmetrical canoe pattern. Not quite symmetrical, actually. The blades aren't the same, but the handle shape itself is one of those symmetrical shapes overall. Makes it very easy to handle. You've got the smaller clip point or smaller pen blade on one side, and then the larger spear point on the other. Full height hollow grinds on these, thin stock. They're going to be great little daily carry slicers. All right, next up we have the Hoback Radford. This is one of his imported models, and it is essentially a slightly smaller and slightly slimmer version of his Quebec, kind of a signature shape. $425 for this knife. You've got 3¼ inch blade length with that upswept trailing point tanto right there. 20 CV steel. But actually, Thomas, zoom in on that blade here 1 second. Can't we call that a reverse hawkbill?
Modified reverse tanto.
But it's...
There it is.
Anyway, my favorite part about this knife though, yes it is a titanium frame lock, is that front handle scale right there. This is a material called Juma, which is essentially, it's acrylic-like, but this is a blue snakeskin Juma, and look at that scale patterning going on. It goes through the material. This is not just like printed on top or anything like that. There's a little tiny hint of shimmer, almost iridescence there, and each one's a little bit different because you can see the pattern is a little irregular. It's just so, so cool. I've actually got a couple pieces of this material in white that we've been meaning to do something with, put on a knife handle, but just haven't gotten around to. But now, at least there's some other things available to look at. How cool is that? You folks out there, let me know. As far as the rest of the knife, as mentioned, it's a little easier to carry than the Quayback. It's a decent EDC size, still feels like a slightly, upper mid-sized knife, not quite a big knife, but almost there, and feels super solid too. Closes up really nicely in the pocket profile and then flips open very nicely as well. All right, next up we have a premium kitchen knife. This is part of Enrique Peña's X series, which means it's made by Wright, priced at $277, and we've got a 7-inch Santoku blade with M390 steel. Horizontal grain, very nice. The handle is black G10 with dual inlays. We've got green micarta and natural micarta faux bolster right there. Creates a great look. The balance of it is quite good. It's balanced right on that pinch point right there. The horizontal grain is nice in addition to looking good. As you are using the knife in the kitchen, you go to wipe it off. You're gonna be wiping along the same direction of the grain too, which is very cool. Nice thin grind. The edge itself is great. Now, as far as kind of the cutting style of this knife, this is kind of straight push cutter all the way. That style where you're pushing down through the cut. It feels very natural, feels very balanced doing that. You can of course rock chop with it, but it's not got the, it doesn't have the gentlest rock overall. Clunks when you come down just a little bit. But again, this a little more in keeping with what I think of anyway as a more traditional Eastern style of kitchen knife or Japanese style. And that's all about the precision that comes from the push cutting stuff right there. Very, very nicely done knife. And last, but certainly not least, I'm sure you've been eyeing this big Bowie over here at the end of the table this whole episode, the Cold Steel Natchez Bowie in 3V steel. This thing is intimidating, is very impressive. $535 for it. It's a big hunk of 3V steel, nearly 12 inches long. It's like 11 3/4 on the blade length, plus the stick tang that's going in underneath those handles too. And it is not thin. I mean, this is what, 5/16 of an inch thick? 8 millimeters. Whew. Not to be trifled with. And you may be looking at this thinking, what am I going to use this for? This is kind of designed for what we think of as the original Bowie knife. This is like a dueling thing right here. Yeah, I suppose you could use it around camp, but the guard is going to get in the way for some other grips. I do wish they gave you a little bit more of a blank ricasso there, so you could pull it out of whatever you're chopping or whatnot. But man, it's still impressive. The handle we have listed as micarta, but it's either linen micarta or G10. This is one of those ones that's kind of hard to tell, but the black looks great against the brushed finish metal overall. Blade itself, how does it move? It actually doesn't feel too cumbersome. It's not lightweight, don't get me wrong, but you can get a lot of range of motion just by moving your wrist around with that blade. Full flat grind, tapering out there near the tip, upswept. I bet you could whistle that tip around really good with a nice strike. The swedge on the back, it's not sharpened, but it does come to a point. I bet you could, it almost feels like you could just strop it and have a hair shaving edge on the back, even though it's technically not sharpened, we'll say.
It's a reverse Scandi grind.
Actually, that is kind of a Scandi ground swedge in a way. And if we hold it, it's kind of a hawkbill shape there. Yeah. I don't know why I keep trying to force this reverse hawkbill joke, but anyway. Whew, very cool. The sheath, actually I forgot to take it out of the plastic, but it's typical cold steel Secure-X with the nylon drop system on the back and versatile hole patterns there for all kinds of aftermarket stuff if you'd want to add that to it. This is one of those knives that I just like to, I'll just be walking around the office holding this, making people uncomfortable.
You don't need to carry a knife to do that.
No, but it helps. Very, very cool. There is, if that price is too much, I believe there is an AUS 10 version coming at some point as well, so keep an eye out for that. Well, that is all I've got to show you right now for this week. Check out the drops happening tomorrow and stay tuned next week for more new knives as well. Let me know what you thought down in the comment section of these blades, and if you want to get your hands on them, check out the links in the description. And while you're browsing the site, don't forget about our Knife Rewards program, because you might as well be earning some free money to spend on your next knives if you're going to purchase one of these ones today. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center. That's Thomas behind the camera, and we're signing off. See you next time.